So who is the actual one that's kind of assigned to bringing in the talent? Is it Vince himself? Is it Pat Patterson? Would it be like a Jerry Briscoe? Or at this point, I mean, who is actually bringing in talent?
Well, Vince has the final say. Certainly, Briscoe had a role. Pat Patterson definitely had a role. Terry Garvin, to a degree, had the role. And actually, in Charlotte, because of Terry's friendship with Pat, Terry left to go up there where he was going to run towns and was going to give him some some job security. And when Terry went up there, I would have conversation with him.
As far as WrestleMania 8, you had a big role in that creatively. Was that kind of one of your, basically one of the things where you get more responsibility for that show?
What happened there was Terry Garvin and the ring crew reported to Pat Patterson. And there was an incident that hit the papers in New York, and it was a big scandal that involved Terry. And Vince had no choice other than he had to have Pat fire Terry Garvin, and then Vince had to somehow show that Pat was ultimately responsible because he let it happen, and that what's his name reported to Pat. So that's why Pat was suspended. And during that period of time, Pat did not come around. I don't know what kind of communication there was between Pat and Vince. I would not have been surprised if Vince continued to. It didn't have a contract, but I would not have been surprised if Pat didn't receive some compensation with Vince through that period of time. And it was like a 6-month period where, and Indianapolis was the next big pay-per-view, and where Pat and I would do it together. It was like, okay, this is all your baby. You figure it out, book the card, and you're going to have to run everything. And which I fortunately was able to do.
Now, as far as that controversy with Terry Garvin and the ring crew and basically a horrible sex scandal that hit the WWF at that point, were you shocked? But I know you mentioned a few times, nothing really surprised you. Shocked?
Yeah.
Is that one of those things? It's kind of one of those things that shocks us. Man, that's not something I thought of with Terry Garvin.
Terry was a friend, had been a friend for a long time, and in this business, there are all kinds of people. They're gays, they're straights, they're I mean, like I say, nothing surprised me, and I look at someone what they contribute to the success of the promotion. And Terry, there was nobody better than getting towns and going out and knowing how to promote them and have the towns be successful. Terry Garvin was, in my opinion, the best guy that I ever worked with for doing that. And he was close with Pat, and it just was one of those really, really sad things. And what was bad was because it involved underage guys that were handling the ring crew, and it hit the papers in New York. And you couldn't ignore it or sweep it under because the especially the guy in New York that really hated Vince would have made you suffer terribly if you didn't do something about it. And it was sad. It was unfortunate, but